Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk to you about the magic of the trip that we just took. We took a 5-week journey out onto the Pacific Northwest, and we drove out there from Pennsylvania, and it was a friend of mine, and we did some camping and we stayed in some hotels, and we just mixed it up a bit. So we were stretching our limits a bit in trying out camping and how cold can we go kind of thing. It was quite comical. We ended up having really good weather for the most part. The whole first day it was nothing but rain, dark, dingy and cloudy, even the morning of the second day. But after that we drove into sunshine, and we decided to stop at the Indiana Dunes on Lake Michigan, and that's just when the sun started to break open. But most of the trip, we got to see Mount Olympus, which most people don't get to see it because it's covered in clouds. It was sunshiny for a couple of days, and we were able to see it. We did have some rain in Washington, not a whole lot. And we had some beautiful weather in Oregon, and all the way through, actually. So as we drove through places, then the rain came behind us, which was interesting. So that's kind of like, just to give you an idea of the magic in the little ways. It was just constant. We kept saying, you can't make this up. We're totally guided. Where we were going to stay. Are we going to be able to get in this campground? It's so popular. We had to stand in line to see if we could get a campsite at one of the campsites. And everything always fell into place. We were always where we were meant to be. And it just happened organically, and we just trusted the flow. And so part of that, trusting that flow, in the beginning of the trip, I was trying to plan some sound healing events at different places. But it really wasn't coming together, and I knew I was supposed to let go of that and just trust the spontaneity of the trip. And eventually I did. So I had a lot of personal lessons in this, and not everything I'm going to share here, but I just want to share things that were magical for us. Of course, we went to Indiana Dunes first, and we just spent maybe an hour and a half there. We walked down the beach, the sun was shining. It was beautiful. And on the way back, we stopped, and there was this butterfly laying in the surf, right in the wet sand. And my friend bent over, and she could see that the legs were stuck, and we unburied the legs. We weren't sure if it was alive or not. So I picked it up, and we moved it into drier area, and then we walked up the beach further, and we sat down to take a time to meditate. I wanted to meditate and just take in the beauty of the area that we were in. And as we were doing that, the butterfly flew away. So we saved the butterfly right off the bat. So here's a side of transformation. The journey was starting out quite well. From there, we were on kind of a beeline to get to San Juan Island to meet our other friend who lives there, who was living there temporarily, and there was a weekend workshop held there. But on the way, we did drive through Bighorn National Forest and Yellowstone, and we were just in awe over the majestic beauty of driving out there and driving through those places. And you could just feel the sacredness of the places. So it was already feeling magical. We were already embracing all of that feeling, the feeling of the beauty, and the magic that the earth holds. And it's just so expansive. And we're only seeing pieces of it. And we're seeing it quickly, and it's just overwhelming. Overwhelming. So we go on to San Juan, and we are in this retreat. It's held by a Cherokee medicine woman, and she's teaching about plant medicine. We all got messages there, and one of the messages I had received for myself was that I would be doing more ceremony type things, which is something I've never embraced, other than actually doing a sound healing session, but not in particular ceremonies. So that was interesting, and it felt really good to be there. The land that we were on felt very magical. The land of San Juan Islands really felt untouched in a way, not holding pain like I've noticed when I went to Ireland and other places. And I did learn that the Native Americans were left alone on San Juan Island, so there wasn't struggle there. I connected with a lot of trees on this trip. There was a pine tree right where we were staying that just kind of was hidden, but it was huge, and it was like not really, it was out of the ordinarily large for the rest of the trees that were around there, and it just kind of felt like nobody really knew the power of this tree. So I connected with the tree, and I could feel it, and I could feel its strength, and it was grateful that I acknowledged it, and that was the beginning, of communicating with the trees. So later in another area we went to, I connected with a maple tree. Huge maple tree. I don't think I've ever seen a maple tree this big. But boy, it just totally had the grandmother spirit to me. It was like, wow, it was very loving, embracing, come and see me kind of feeling from this maple tree. And I just went and leaned against her and just took it in and just embraced it. It's another way of weaving the magic was, we showed up in time. We were visiting my friend, and she was in an RV, and she was getting ready to leave there, and she decided to leave when we leave. And we would go down the coast together in Oregon. So there's the three of us now traveling from San Juan. But it was very hard for her to leave there, so it was very important that we were there. So it was another synchronicity that we knew it was aligned for us to show up at that time to help her feel supported as she was leaving, because she's new at the RV thing. So we all headed down the coast, the peninsula, and we managed to get campsites along the way. That worked out. A lot of times they're already all booked up, and it just worked out perfectly. We visited Soul Duck Hot Springs and Ruby Beach. I never experienced anything like it. You walk down on the beach, and all of these rock formations, they're alive. I feel like they're speaking, and they have imagery to them. And the one was just, he looked like a guardian and kind of like a gorilla looking rock. I mean, you just couldn't deny it. And each rock had its personality. It was just amazing. I guess they're called haystacks. And then from there, we went to see the largest cedar in the world. And the power coming off of that tree was incredible. Just incredible. Just massive, divine, masculine energy. It was massive. It brought me to tears. And I just stood in it in awe and just took it in, and it was speaking to me intuitively. I was getting its purpose here, and it was just amazing. I was just in this sense of awe every day. We headed down the Oregon coast, which was just gorgeous, and we stopped at the haystacks at Cannon Beach. Again, alive and magical. You can just get so much from Gaia in these ways, and all of the rocks and the trees and the ocean and the sand. It just is amazing when you open up to it. So from there, we went into Ashland. We went inland to Ashland, Oregon, and we stayed at Jackson Well Springs, and they have a goddess temple there. We made a day trip up to Crater Lake. And on the way up there, I started feeling a lot of energy in my body, and I was starting to feel sick, and I didn't really notice it at first, but then I realized, I'm getting a message. And I got downloaded with doing the rain ceremony at Crater Lake. I've never done a rain ceremony, but you recall at the retreat, she said that I would be doing more ceremonies, and it just came in. The melody that was going to come through, and the drumming that we were doing, and what I would say as an invocation was coming through, and the three of us did it. We used the drums and the rattle, and we did a ceremony. But before we even got there, it had started raining. But it didn't rain very much. It cleared off then. Then we did the ceremony, and then we continued on, and it felt so good. So that felt very purposeful, because I actually was just in the present moment. I listened and I responded. And that was it. That was the magic. That was like, wow, okay, I listened, I responded. This feels right. It feels, fun and beautiful and purposeful. So we come back, and the next day I go to the goddess temple to meditate, and this gentleman comes in behind me, and then I go out on the porch and I'm writing in my journal, and he comes out and introduces himself to me. And he just says, I feel, that I wanted to talk to you. I feel your energy. And we started talking, and the conversation went on. It was very divinely guided again. He just needed some support and things that he already knew and understood. He just needed reminded. He needed to be, to have a little more alignment and understanding with where he was in his process right now. And I was there to offer it to him. And we both acknowledged each other. He was a beautiful light worker. And we welcomed that we had that opportunity together. The universe brought us together to provide that. So it was beautiful. It's like, again, nothing planned, just show up and stuff happens. So this is this is the second thing that happened that was just organically opened up for me. We were on our way to Lake Tahoe. And we made a wrong turn, supposedly, not really a wrong turn, ended up going through Lassen Volcanic State Park. And we drove all the way up to the top of the mountain and all the way down. But before we drove up the mountain, we had pulled off at the rest stop there. And there were trails there. And we stopped, we were just gonna eat lunch. And, and I just said, you know what, I'm feeling really drawn to go for a walk. So I walked, there was a stream there. And I just felt really drawn again to create my own little ceremony, which I often do around streams. I just, listen to my intuition, and I just start singing and toning, and things happen. Whatever happens. So that's what happened. Again, it was just honoring the water. It was acknowledging it. It was acknowledging its presence to bring love to wherever the water flows to, and to continue to love and support the land and the people around there. And again, that was I was intended to do that. I don't know what happened energetically, what else may have happened. There was a tree there I connected with. It was on its own little island in the middle of all these streams running into the lake. It was quite beautiful. I spent some time with the tree as well. And then we went on our way, and we drove up the mountain and back down, and off we went to Lake Tahoe. And we visited a friend there. And it was so beautiful there, just so beautiful. That lake is overwhelmingly beautiful. I just don't even know how to describe it. But before Lake Tahoe, we went to Mount Shasta, and that was huge. Mount Shasta is just pure majesty. It's majestic, it's divine. It's the divine masculine in a very loving, supportive feeling to it. And just the higher you go up the mountain, the more you feel it. And it was very peaceful and calming to be there. And we pulled in to the spot that we were going to go walking. And we saw this ranger. He just got back from a hike with some people he took on a hike. And we were talking amongst ourselves. He heard us. We were saying we were wondering where the spring was to get water and whether we had enough water or not. And he's way across the parking lot. He goes, "Are you looking for the water?" And he comes over and he talks to us and he tells us where to go. And then he tells us where this old sweat lodge is. It used to be a sweat lodge. And they still had the lower walls built for it. So, that we could honor that sweat lodge and go in there and meditate, and which we did. And we went further on down, and we did our own water ceremony again at one of the streams. And I sat and meditated with these 3 trees. And the light that came through, a picture that I took, the sunlight was coming in one direction. I'm posting the picture here as well. And then light came from the opposite direction. And one of my intuitive friends said that was the tree showing itself to you, showing its energy to you. because I was sitting there honoring these 3 trees, feeling connected to them, and sitting in the middle of them and meditating and praying. And it was beautiful. Just to be there in that space for a few hours was just amazing. So if you get a chance to visit Mount Shasta, I suggest you do so. And from there, we went on to Zion and Bryce. And when we were in Zion, we stopped at a roadside rest again. And we were having lunch there. And I kept walking up and down the path past this tree, a ponderosa pine tree. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But then there was one point where I was really looking at it. And then as I was walking by, it caught my attention, and I just looked at it, and it started to move a little bit, and it was like it just wanted my attention, and I focused on it, and I just got the message, like, thank you for acknowledging me. You know, people walk by me all the time, they don't necessarily acknowledge me. So that's another magical tree experience for me. And then from there we went to Bryce, and I had encounters with 2 other trees. We stopped at Swamp Canyon, and we were just looking over the overlook, and we started to walk back to the car, and all of a sudden the wind blew, and it just stopped me in my tracks. I had this feeling, stop, pay attention. And I turned around, and there was this pine tree in front of me, and the wind just kept blowing, and it was blowing, you know, right at me. And I just knew this tree was giving me a message, a download, whatever. But you know, I let go of having to understand what was going on, and I started just to embrace that I knew that there was an exchange of energy, and I welcomed it. And this was getting easier for me and more magical for me. I let go of having to know what it is or contemplate what it is. So then we went on to Bryce Point, and there's a little path where you can walk down, and I walked down it, and I saw this juniper tree, and I was like, oh, it's that tree. It's really pretty all by itself. And I took a picture of it, and all of a sudden the tree started waving. You know, no other trees in the area were doing that. So I put the camera down, I focused on it again, and it's like that this tree's talking to me too. And I went over and leaned on the trunk of the tree, and I was just grateful that I noticed, and again, an exchange of energy. Not sure if I had gotten any other message or not from that tree, but just an honoring, you know. And this is connecting. This is how I was connecting with Gaia on this trip. Oh, so while we were at Bryce, we ran into 2 friends of ours who are from the East Coast as well, and they were driving out west, but we didn't know about their trip until after they had started it, and they didn't know about our trip. And we ran into them in Bryce in a store. You know, what are the chances of that? You know, and we just laughed, and we enjoyed it, and we were like, oh my gosh, you know, how can you can't make this stuff up again. You know, here it is, spirits, you know, showing us, you know, what fun it is to be in this magical, mystical world, you know. And she just, you know, showed us, you know, how beautiful it is. So we spent a couple hours hanging out with them, and they went their way and we went our way, and we just got a big kick out of that. So, and then after that, then we headed to Santa Fe. It's house in Santa Fe and Ojo Caliente. And there were a lot of synchronistic meetings there, you know. They're people I know. So, like, you know, I had a meeting with a dear friend who was delivering message after message to me just in conversation, just by having dinner. You know, it was like, oh wow, this is so orchestrated by the universe. I'm getting these messages, and you know, and we're sharing, you know, just the divinity of life with each other and really having fun with it, and it was awesome. And then I helped another friend who said it was divine timing that I was there with her, and helped her move through some things. And you know, and it always helps me when I'm helping someone else, and helps me to, you know, honor more of the space that I'm in, you know, and let go of things I need to let go of as well. So that was a beautiful encounter. And another friend as well, you know, there was supporting each other, and then all of us together, and you know, it was just really good. And reconnecting with Santa Fe, and being on the mountain and connecting with the mountain again, and it was just really great to visit and reconnect again. And one day we went to Ojo Caliente, and there was this gentleman in the water in one of the pools, and he was singing, and you know, I tend to get in there and start humming to myself. And afterwards he told me he was singing a Sweat Lodge song. And we talked, and I told him I do sound work. And it was just kind of a synchronistic event. I feel like, I probably know him from another lifetime. But we talked for a few minutes, and then he asked if I wanted to chant, and my other friend was with me at the time in the steam room, so we all went in the steam room, and we were all in there toning. It was so beautiful. It was amazing, and it was like just another beautiful moment and experience, another present moment, being present and just embracing it. And then we all went our separate ways. It's just another magical moment, weaving the tapestry of life in all these different ways. So some subtler forms of the magic showed up in a form of a raven. The ravens kept showing up for both of us, and it was quite comical. We were getting a big kick out of them because they were showing up every day, pointing our way, helping us know that we made the right choice in each moment. And it was very, comforting to see them with us. And the other aspect is all of the light forms that showed up and the different ways light has shown up on this trip. The deep purple that showed up in Antelope Canyon, the shape of the sun, things that the sun highlighted. There's even a picture where it looks like there's a little Kuan Yin statue on a rock, and that was all from the light. So take your time and enjoy the messages you could be receiving from these pictures of the light. And we are so grateful for Source showing us this and showing us how we're awakening and we're embracing what the light has to share with us. When I did my last video, I went into the woods here in Pennsylvania where I like to go. And I had my little phone camera stand with me, and I'd stuck it in my pocket and it fell out while I was walking. I started to backtrack and figured out I had no idea where I came from. I started asking for assistance, intuitive assistance, which, I was wanting to go into my head, but I backed up and started asking for assistance. I got guided to go to these two trees I often sit at. So I went there and I sat quietly and I asked to be guided. And I asked, to accept the magic. I mean, I've had all this magical stuff happen, right? Be in the magic now and let myself be guided. And so I got that the trees were going to help me. And I said, okay, how are you going to help me? How are you going to communicate with me? And a nut fell out of a tree. And then a leaf fell out of a tree. And I went, okay, that was a sign to go to the left. So I walked on the trail to the left. And the wind would pick up and blow, like giving me affirmation. It was just like a gentle breeze that I was going in the right direction. And then it blew harder, and I was like, okay, I think I'm supposed to stop here and turn downhill. And of course I was using my internal compass of yes and no, left or right and all that. So I found it. I found the spot where I did the recording, and then from there I easily found the stand because it was down the hill and it had fallen out on the main path. I could see it as I went down there to get it. And so there, I was grateful. I brought the magic home, and I'm still embracing the magic. I hope I've encouraged you to embrace the magic in your life and start to look at it magically and mystically and let it unfold and let it open up. The more present you are, the easier it is. So thank you. Much love and blessings. See you next time.